What's something that happened on a first date that made you decide against a second date? I told a guy beforehand that I just had ankle surgery so I can't walk too much. He proceeds to want to walk all over an outside mall. I felt twice because my ankle gave out. He didn't even stop to help me. Then he wanted me to suck his dick in his beat-up truck. I only did it because I didn't want to get hurt. I have never been on a date that made me so angry. I just wanted it to be over as fast as possible. Tip on a first date: never let the other person pick you up. Always have your own transportation, even if it means using your own 2 feet or however many feet you happen to have. After dinner at a nicer restaurant, she progressed our relationship to dating for a few years, living together, married, her expecting our first kid and then finding out I had been cheating, and loudly demanding to know why I'd do that. I just laughed and our waitress looked horrified. She'd been standing at the staff station for the entire thing. I excused myself to the bathroom. Waitress followed cause she knew I wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, paid with a very nice tip, and bailed. We met at the place so I knew she wasn't stranded. I'm not an ah. One was the time I took this girl to dinner and she could not stop staring at our waiter. I'll grant her one thing: I'm a guy and can admit this guy was probably totally hot for anyone who prefers men. Square-jawed and muscled college athlete type. I get it. But I didn't appreciate that she literally craned her neck every time the kitchen door swung open to see if he was walking out. Eventually I gave her enough cash to pay for my part of the meal, told her I'd noticed as though I couldn't have, suggested to her that she could get his contact info when she paid the bill, and left. After dinner at a nicer restaurant, she progressed our relationship to dating for a few years, living together, married, her expecting our first kid and then finding out I had been cheating, and loudly demanding to know why I'd do that. I just laughed and our waitress looked horrified. She'd been standing at the staff station for the entire thing. I excused myself to the bathroom. Waitress followed cause she knew I wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, paid with a very nice tip, and bailed. We met at the place so I knew she wasn't stranded. I'm not an ah. Met this Mexican girl at a local Dunkin' Donuts for our first date, ordered and sat down. We didn't even start talking before her whole family walked in and got into line to order while looking over and giggling. After about 1 minute she got up, walked over, said something, then all her older male family members walked over to the table and introduced themselves to me. They weren't rude or threatening, but it was weird. When I say whole family I mean, mother, father, 2 aunts and uncle, both grandparents, maybe 4 little kids. I never spoke to her again. First red flag, he made me split a $15 check. Second red flag, he kept insisting I follow him to his house after the bar. Final red flag, he stole the $20 tip I left for the bartender out of the checkbook and pocketed it. Absolutely disgusting. Edit y'all, this happened like 7 years ago. We drank around $70 worth of drinks. The bartender knew my face from the many times I've been there. My belief is that he could have paid the $15 and I left a tip. Once again. That's my opinion. I respect everyone's opinion. And that's why everyone has someone for them, heart. The date felt more like a job interview to fill a position, rather than an actual date. He gave off a vibe of someone who wasn't into getting to know me as a person, but just listed his wants and needs. So at the end of the date, he asked how I thought it went and I said I didn't feel a click match. And he said, yeah, he was missing the wow factor. So I laughed my ass off, slightly offended, in the car home. Gosh, no idea I was auditioning for a contest. I was happy we only went for drinks, but even that felt a bit too long. He took it out. And I don't mean this in a funny, unexpected Seinfeld kind of way, although I suppose it is that. I mean, he leaned across the table and whispered, "I'm out." I said, "Excuse me?" For some reason my first thought was out of the closet. He said, "Out, under the table. Look under the table." And, like an idiot, I looked. Then he said, "That's what you do to me." I said, "This is what you do to me," and I left. I'm a people pleaser, so, to this day, I'm proud of myself for walking away in the middle of dinner. The date felt more like a job interview to fill a position, rather than an actual date. He gave off a vibe of someone who wasn't into getting to know me as a person, but just listed his wants and needs. So at the end of the date, he asked how I thought it went and I said I didn't feel a click match. And he said, yeah, he was missing the wow factor. So I laughed my ass off, slightly offended, in the car home. Gosh, no idea I was auditioning for a contest. I was happy we only went for drinks, but even that felt a bit too long. While not on a date, as a bartender you see a lot of bad dates. The most recent I witnessed was a military guy made sure to bring it up, was talking about his previous marriage. Just cringy all around. He would later go on in a quiet bar with 5 people max about all the dates he goes on, his buddies hyping him up. Heard him interrupting his date, and constantly turning the convo back on himself. I'd quit happened, but I closed them out on 2 separate tabs. They were both bad tippers, so maybe they deserve each other. This girl and I had an amazing time mini golfing and shit down the bar we went to. It was not until the end when she casually mentioned she homeschooled her 4 kids, 3 of whom had different dads. I'm all for living your life how you see fit, but I didn't want to be the 4th father to the 5th kid, and she really should have mentioned that in the messaging leading up to our date. Like, I don't want to be dishonest, I have 4 kids from previous BFS. I don't want kids, so that wouldn't be a good match for me. He started discussing marriage. This was the first date, I barely knew him. I did know that he was coming off a broken engagement. He already had a trip to Aruba booked, would have been the honeymoon, and was talking about how great it would be to give me a ring there. I barely knew him. He was nice enough, but I was not at the stage in life I was in college to even have marriage on my mind. He was either 3 or 4 years older than me, I can't remember. Not a bad person, but we were at different points in life. When I showed up to the bar, he had his whole friend group with him. I then learned that he was already very drunk as we started taking shots together. He kept saying he was from the Bay when he wasn't, his parents were. Lo and behold, "Tell me when to go by E40" came over the speakers, and he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, but I have to do this right now." I'm like, "Do what?" This dude started doing the hyphy dance and all. I was so weak. I couldn't wait to call someone to tell them what just happened, smiley face. We went on a lunch date. I wanted to keep it casual, low stakes. Just to meet and chat. She asked me back to her house after lunch. It was, like, 2:30ish? I thought, what the heck? Have a Coke, get a feel for who she is, chat a bit more. Sure. Innocent enough. Turns out, she wanted to enjoy conjugal relations with me. In her bedroom. With her 8-year-old kid who had just gotten home from school watching TV in the living room. I declined the opportunity and left pretty abruptly. And that was that. I walked into the guy's house and there was Nazi shit all over his place. Not in a collector kind of way, but in a crazy kind of way. There was a mannequin wearing a KKK outfit in the corner. He was a satellite friend who I knew, but didn't know well. I've never come down with food poisoning so fast before. I got the fuck out of there. I was able to play sick for a couple days, but it was super awkward ghosting him, being we had the same friends. For the longest time I didn't go places he was at. One time I went on a date with a girl, and during the date she starts talking about future plans with me. She was talking about how we are going to have kids together and how we were going to go on trips with my brother and his wife. I was in my mid-20s and had just started my career when this happened, so of course this freaked me out. Who jumps to those kind of conclusions during the first date? It was super awkward after, because she worked with my mom and kept asking about me. This was weird, but years ago I went out on a date with a guy that voice fished me. Like catfished with his voice. He had already sent me a video that he was talking in. But when I met him he sounded completely different with a slight lisp. Which I would have gotten over, except he ended up taking me to a gas station to talk to his friend at the pump for 45 minutes. I faked an emergency and went home. I've had much worse first dates than that, but that one left me flabbergasted. The guy told me he would still be together with his kid's mom if she had apologized for what she did wrong. Out of curiosity I asked what she did wrong? Was expecting something like she cheated, you know, something that actually needed apologizing for. Nope. Apparently she kept nagging one day and wouldn't shut up, so, he tied her to a computer chair and went out for 3 hours and left her there. I said it doesn't sound like she was the one who needed to apologize, and left. I was on a date with this dude, and his ex just showed up in the middle of our meal to give him his garage door opener. The guy clearly had no idea how the ex knew where he was, but the ex clearly knew we were on a date. It was really freaking weird. He was a nice dude, I really like him, but I dunno, it kinda just ruined it for me. I know that's not super fair, but it was just really weird. I'm pretty sure his ex was stalking him, and I don't need that in my life. He referred to every woman as a cunt and weird in a country where that is common and harmless. His ex was a cunt, his aunt was a cunt, some random author he was telling me about for some reason was a cunt, etc. Cunt doesn't really bother me, but the way he said it was very aggressive and angry. After that he decided to argue with me about sports and politics and berate me for my choices in those areas. No need for a second date after that. I was newly out, and I had had a crush on her for ages, so when she asked me out I was so excited. She was pretty, smart, very laid back, and had a great sense of humor, so things were going great initially. End of the date comes around, and she very casually drops the bomb on me that she's involved in an open investigation for vehicular manslaughter. She even hinted that it was purposeful and did not seem regretful. That was the end of that. The date was going great, but we were talking about family, friends, and all that, and I realized that I'd slept with her sister. I didn't really know what to do, but you can just say, "Oh, your family looks fun and I slept with your sister not too long ago. Show me more pics of your dog, is she a lab mix?" I cut the date short after dinner and hoped it'd just fizzle out, but they found out. It was cool though, just an awkward coincidence. They tried to steal the tip I left as an apology for them harassing the waitstaff before we even ordered, then screaming at them that they demanded free chocolate milk, which was not something on the menu even with their dinner, which was already itself a reason for no second date. Only reason I sat through the meal was because they were driving. We were coming back from me helping them move a bunch of furniture, so they were my ride. 1. He tried to force a kiss. 2. He tried to get me to agree to marry him the next week. No, he wasn't an immigrant. 3. He said women were stupid and would believe anything he told them. I am a woman. 4. He said it was okay to drown puppies. It was actually humane. 5. He swore that it was impossible to get AIDS if you were straight. Found out a week later that he knew the whole time he was HIV positive. That's just some of them. Dude talked about going to visit and pet his dead cat in the woods. He became upset when I said that might not be the most hygienic thing to do and retaliated by suggesting I don't properly clean my jewelry. Yeah, but I almost ran out of the restaurant. ETA shows me pics of the dead cat. Also, to clarify, he didn't want me to go visit it with him like for a second date, lol. Then I really would have taken off running. She asked me to go out dancing with her. She's a hot tall blonde, I said yes. She shows up dressed like Olivia Newton-John in the physical video. Then dances in front of mirrors dancer-size style. This was 30 years ago. After about 5 minutes of this, I used my ability to roll my ankle up to clumsily remove myself from the floor. I have a beer and enjoy the show. There was no second date though. She asked again. He manhandled me, instead of speaking to me like a person with agency. We were at a popular hotel with 2 stairs to choose from to go down. I started going right and he pretty much picked me up and moved me to the left. Then we were talking. I didn't see a group of people all trying to squeeze in at the bar as they were behind me. Instead of pointing it out, he grabbed me and moved me again. Huge red flag.